Hello, I'm Dr. Basil Considine. I'm here from the ACU Online Writing Center, and today we're going to talk about how to find supportive sources for your writing. This particular webinar is part of a series that we have that tie in with course assignments in the conflict management program, but we have many others that we offer every semester and that we have available online. First, a little bit about the ACU Online Writing Center. We work with students in just about every online program at ACU through a variety of means, including providing resources such as a course paper template, how-to guides, webinars such as this, as well as appointments where you can get feedback on your writing. You can also send us questions via email. But if you want to get feedback on your writing, the best thing to do is to sign up for an appointment using the Online Writing Center quick link in My ACU. That's my.acu.edu. And there are two types of appointments you can sign up for. The first, a asynchronous appointment, is basically this. You sign up for a time. By the time that time comes up, you upload a copy of your course paper and any special requests for feedback, and we send you feedback via email, generally within 24 hours. If this happens to be the Easter holiday weekend, might be a little bit longer than that, but we'll get you your feedback well in time before the deadline, even in that case. But generally, it's 24 hours. The other option for a real-time phone or Zoom appointment would be you sign up for time and then you join us, either in a Zoom session or by joining the phone call at that time, and you can ask your questions back and forth. And some people prefer the asynchronous thing because they can look at all the feedback at once and go at their own pace. Other people prefer to be able to ask follow-up questions in real time. It's a matter of preference. And whichever you pick, make sure to get us a copy of your paper by the time that appointment rolls around so you can look at it and get you some feedback. Some of the webinars coming in the pipeline for this term, we have a variety of topics coming up. And if there's anything else that you're looking for that's not covered on the coming up thing, I encourage you to check out our webinar guide where we post links and descriptions of all of our webinar offerings, including, if you scroll down past the calendar, you'll see this tabbed guide where we have sorted the different webinars by the program and course that they tie into. So for example, here for CONR, you could select that and you would see a list of all the webinars that have tie-ins for that right now. And we update this throughout the semester. So as a new webinar recording goes online, we update this tabbed guide. There's also an alphabetical listing of webinars at the bottom of the page, but I think you'll find we have so many webinars that you'll want to go with your tabbed course guide here. We have an APA course paper template you'll see me referencing later, a YouTube channel that we post our videos to for convenient viewing, and we also have a blog. So let's take a look at a few things here. We're going to start by reviewing some citation basics, talk about the literature search process when you need to get additional sources, and then we'll look specifically at this assignment for CONR 630 and finish with some outlining and drafting. So the basics for citing sources in APA style. Starting principle, we have two separate things that sometimes get confused. There are references. These are the sources themselves. And there are citations when you refer to those things. So the references are grouped in a reference section at the back of the paper. And you can consider that section to be a guide for locating a particular source of information. And the individual items in that reference section we'll call reference entries. Citations are in the body of your paper where you give a shorthand reference to things that are in the references list. And that's not going to give the complete information about that particular source, but we're going to have 2 or 3 pieces of info. Who wrote it, the author's last names, the year that it was published, and if you happen to be doing a direct quotation, the page number, paragraph number, or timestamp to find it. So what do those things look like? Well, an APA reference is going to tell us who wrote it, when was it published, what it's called, and how do you find it. Now, as a general reminder, it's always good to proofread your work, and if you use spell check alone, there's some things that it won't catch. So take a moment and look at the slide and see if you can tell me what's not correct on this slide. If you spotted number 3, then you're great. So this is a case where there's a small typo that if you're reading it out loud, you say, wait a minute, that's what it's called, not what's it called. And a spelling check alone won't catch that. So this is a good reminder to always proofread your work and ideally read it out loud or have someone else read it out loud so you can catch those things where your mental autocorrect enters into it. So, for example, if you had a book that you were citing, we get who wrote it. Okay, that's the last name, and the first name gets changed to initial. Middle name, if it's given, same thing. The publication year, in this case 2011, the title, italicized, nursing, and then how do you find it, in this case, is the name of the publisher. That's what we do for books. Now, if there's more than one author, that's fine. We just add a comma and then the different author names and put an ampersand before the last author in the list. Now, if you are familiar with previous versions of APA style, you may recall that they used to require that you include the city and state, like New York, New York, or Oxford, United Kingdom for overseas place. That is no longer included in AP 7th edition. Global publishing has changed. Having books printed in particular locations is no longer as meaningful as it used to be, and so that information is no longer included in the reference entry in APA style. So just who wrote it, when was it published, what's it called, how do you find it, the last one being for books, the name of the publisher. Now, for a journal article, you're going to start again with the author date information. Then we're going to have what it's called, which is the title of the article written in sentence case. So East China Sea is capitalized because that's a proper noun. Context is capitalized because it's the first word of the subtitle. And then how do you find it? In this case, is the journal information. Asian Perspective is the title of the journal. 31 is the volume number, what is the issue number, and then the page range 127 to 167. So that's all of that together is how do you find it. If it's a YouTube video, they have a slightly different format for the author name in that we use the name of the channel, in this case, Jeremy and Jan's. We just write that whatever way it is written for the YouTube channel. Some channels will be one word. So if it's not quite, first name, last name, in this case, the channel name is Jeremy and John's. So we just put that there. There's no resorting it with the comma. And for a video that has a posted month or day, we also include that. So 2021, August 21. There are some YouTube channels that use the same title for multiple videos, like, weekly update or something like that. And the title doesn't change, but the day that it was published does. And you'll see here, Reminiscence Movie Review. That's the title exactly as it was rendered in the YouTube, except converted to sentence case. And with that note in square brackets, video added. And how do you find it? YouTube is the name of the platform, and then a direct link to the video. Now, if you are working with some external course material that's on a website, say, we want to make sure that you are following the guidelines for whatever that source is. So this is the guidelines for just a general web page. So we have the title of the author, in this case, the Association of Family and Conciliation Courts. It is a source that doesn't happen to have a published date, and then the title of the web page and a link there. Now, sometimes you'll find something that can fit in to more than one category. And so there might be a more specific classification and way that you can format, but you always want to start with these 4 basics. While there may be a more specific way, so long as you have the general stuff, you're good. Now, if you are using these citations, here's some examples of what that might look like. Again, we're giving the who wrote it or presented it for a video, when was it published, and if you're quoting directly, you want to have a page range or a timestamp. Let's talk about that literature search process. Now, you can get to the ACU library through a couple ways, but let's go through the distance education portal because it has a lot of other helpful pieces of information. So that's guides.acu.edu/distance. And so that has the OneSearch box where you want to enter your search terms and hit search. Now, depending on the assignment, you might be looking for more than one type of source, but if you're looking for a journal article, usually being asked for it to be peer-reviewed and often published in the last 5 years to keep it recent. Why the recent requirement? Well, it's going to depend a little bit based on the assignment and the program, but a general principle of wanting the information to be current, including its response to or reaction to anything in the regulatory area, which for divorce, there is a considerable bit of law that does change from year to year. So you want to make sure that it is current and relevant to this assignment. Now, some assignments will be things that you're building on and you're using later, more so if you were writing a capstone project of some sort, in which case you might be looking for things to be very recent or something that you want to use when you get to that capstone project in a year. And so you might want to be looking for things that is from the last 3 years and especially specific to the general geographic region that you are working in. So for example, if your professional practice is going to be in Texas, because a lot of divorce law goes by state, then I would recommend that you be searching for literature that is specific to Texas. Now, if you are doing things that are more general, like principles of conflict resolution, good practices, that's not going to be so geographic specific, but it's probably a good idea to be specific to the country because there are a lot of things that inform how you do it. You know, is there a something about child support that is codified at the national level? Well, in a lot of parts of Europe, yes. In the United States, that's going to depend. So where are you planning on practicing? What is the applicable context for what you're writing about? Now, if it comes to looking for a book, you can still use OneSearch. There are other tools available. Some people will use Google Books or just walk into their local library and browse the shelves. But a good starting thing is to ask, do you have physical library access? Can you get the physical books? Or are you searching for electronic books and other full-text sources that you can access immediately? More on that in a moment. Now, when you're using OneSearch, you can certainly just go ahead and type a few search terms in. Let's say I'm searching for divorce best practices mediation. And you'll see that the search here, this will bring up a large variety of results because, you know, divorce is unfortunately very common. 95,000 results. Now that's a lot. And you might want to be more specific about what you're looking for because, you know, common practice for divorce education, that's going to be a bit different than, oh, divorce without court, your best option. Yes, this is in legal information reference. So that's going to be a different approach. So let's So you can see this is an example of, this is an electronic book that you can access directly online. So you don't need to go to the library. But if you want to make sure that you're only getting things that you could access immediately, go ahead and select full text under limit too. Now you'll see that this has some very old stuff in the database, 1718. All right, I don't think that's going to be super current, where there might be some general, oh, be nice to the other person guidelines. So much has changed. Let's make that more current. Let's say that we'll define that as last 5 years, so 2017 to present. And we see that we still have quite a few resources here. Best practices for social work. Okay, maybe not exactly what I've been looking for. So let's see if we can make this more specific. Let's put best practices in quotation marks. Okay, now this is looking good. And let's go ahead and add United States. Now I'm doing a keyword search, which is a very broad way of searching. And you can see that we're still getting a lot of results here. So you can be more specific. You can even throw in Texas. Now, if you're having trouble with the search, by all means, make use of the Ask a Librarian search, because our librarians are available during business hours and can give you lots of useful recommendations for how to narrow your search. All right, now another thing I want you to be aware of is that you can actually do a search for the course text and see what references that. Now, you'll see that having that as a keyword search isn't getting me anywhere. Now, if I do a title search, for a particular book. First, is it a book that we have? So maybe this particular book is not what we're looking for. Now, if you find that you're not getting the results for something that you're expecting, it's a good thing to check any selections you may have made previous, and if you're still not making sense of it, to use this handy-dandy Ask a Librarian link here to ask for help. Now, if we go to, right, so let's cite that. And again, if I just paste, I might get some extra formatting, so match destination formatting. And, those bullets, I can just take those out really quick. There we go. Now, there's a little cleanup, as I mentioned to you earlier, so I'll just remove that extra space, add that capitalization. Great. I've got my one external source and my one required reading for this week already in there already. So I'll have at least 4 more sources to include here, but I'm off to a good start, saving some time there. So let's look at how to structure this paper. So a good starting point is to just copy and paste the assignment instructions here. And because the instructions specifically say to use headings for these different sections, we don't use one introduction heading in APA style because we know the very first section is a heading and it would be considered redundant. Besides that, oh yes, a section named conclusion. All right, so I'm going to go to the styles pane here, format that as AP level 1. All right. Relevant ethical guidelines. Now, what you would call this one here. You have many choices, but I like resolving the situation because it has that clear tie-in with the instruction there. So when the person grading this is looking, does he have that section? They can look, let's see, oh, yes, resolve. All right, so we've got our main sections here. The introduction, what would I do in this? And I can just start listing this. Now, ethical guidelines here. What sources are we working with? This is a good point to check the course reading and see what we have for this week, because there's certainly some guidelines described there. And if I'm adding, oh, yes, this source here for the model standards of practice. Okay. Even before I start writing I know that that's one of those sources I should be citing. The instructions say I should be citing it. And I even know what the formatting should be. Now, the capitalization may look a little bit weird here, but if an organization presents their full name as including that "the" at the beginning with that capital "the," we just go with it. There's some institutions that do that, like the Ohio University, where they're very specific. Their name is not Ohio University, it is the Ohio University. So in that case, search options here. Turns out that, oh, I've got full text on. Okay, so if it's a book that we physically have in the library, but we don't happen to have an electronic full text copy as well that you can access, well, of course, we won't have anything coming up because we don't have that full text. So if I unselect that, and I check to make sure there are no date restrictions that are causing constraints there. Now, if I redo the search, let's see what comes up. Aha, there's the book I'm looking for. And here's the reason why I was looking for that specific book here. Well, two reasons actually. One is that you can, if you are citing this, you can save a little time by using the Cite button and scrolling down to AP 7th edition, and you can just copy and paste this into your reference list. There's a minor cleanup that you need to do. No space before that colon, and then the first word of the subtitle, the should be capitalized. But that's a very quick fix to make, so overall that saves a lot of time. But what I'm most interested here is what are the subject terms, because if I see, oh, divorce mediation, I can go ahead and select that and see what comes up under that subject. Got 24 sources, and you know what? I can't make it to the library. Let me go ahead and select full text and see if there's anything that I can access from here. Oh, the Handbook of Divorce Mediation, I can access that from home. Now that's a classic. It's a 30-year-old source, so if I was looking for things about current Texas divorce law, I want something much more current. But for, here are principles of conflict resolution. Yeah, definitely. This is one of those much used resources for a reason. So I can go ahead and I can start reading that online. I can use the Cite button to grab the information for the reference. And I think that's a good pausing point there. All right, so let's look at the assignment here. So this is for CONR 630, Advanced Family Mediation. And we've got a short scenario to read about, and then we're told, okay, we need an introduction, conclusion, and in between, you need to state, okay, what you're going to do in this situation, grounding your answer in the course readings and any outside resources you cite, to specifically list what ethical guidelines apply, again, with citations, and that this should be done in a paper where, let's see, name, course number, assignment title. Okay, all that's normally in our AP course paper template. and specifically adding the word count. Okay, so that's what we call a house rule. The word count is not listed in the APA formatting requirement, so it's a little addition. It should be 900 to 1,000 words, which is about 3.5 to 4 pages of double-spaced text, not counting the cover page or references. And subheading for each of those rubric lines there. And if we look at this, we see minimum of 6 sources. Okay, so you should include at least all the sources in the week's required reading. Gotcha. That's our scenario. And there's a ethical issue here. I've accidentally revealed that there's a promise about the housing, and that was supposed to be confidential, and that's not ideal. Take a look at the rubric. We see that the grading, okay, it's a little bit of credit for having the introduction and conclusion and being in the right length and following basic grammar. The vast majority of the points are for addressing the ethical dilemma as mediator and then discussing the guidelines. And you can see that there are more points, 35 going to explaining what the mediator should be doing, and then 20 for the ethical guidelines. So if we look at this in terms of relative length, knowing that this is going to be around 3.5 to 4 pages, we're going to want to have something 2 pages or more going for the first part, and then most of the rest of the available space going to the discussion of the ethical guidelines. All right. So how would this look when we started drafting? Well, this is where you want to go ahead and grab that APA course paper template I mentioned. Now I have a blank copy of the template here, and you'll want to delete these comments. You can do that quickly by going to Review, Delete all comments in document. Now, the instructions said to include the word count. So not only will I put it in there, I'm going to put some highlighting, and I'm going to add a comment so that I don't forget. This paper does not require an abstract, so we'll get rid of that. And remember, the title goes both here and on the cover page. Delete all this placeholder text. And the placeholder references. Oh, hey, remember when I was looking in the catalog? So let's say that I used this source here. All right, go to Cite, APA 7th edition. And if I go ahead and paste, it's got some highlighting, the font's not right, but if I select Match Destination Formatting, that looks better. And I just do a quick look through, that is formatted correctly in APA 7th. Alright, so going back, I can return to the previous search where I was looking for a specific book, Mediating Divorce, a step-by-step manual. And I'll go ahead and use the Cite button here. And this is the one where I said, oh, there's a little bit of formatting cleanup that needs to be done. So it's going to go. Alright, so as you add the different sources here, make sure that you are also adding them to your references list as well. First of all, it helps make sure you don't forget them, and second, it also helps you keep track of what you need to reference, because the instructions for this assignment do say that you should be referring to all the course readings for this week. With that, I think it's time for us to bring things to a close. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to us. Send an email to onlinewritingcenter@acu.edu, or if you have writing feedback that you like, just go ahead and sign up for an appointment. You can find other videos on other classes in assignments in the CONR program, as well as other topics on our website. Have a great evening.